So earlier this year, a hashtag on Twitter called Shared Girlhood was created by the feminist blogger Smash. Basically, her intention was that we all kind of participate in tweeting about our childhood experiences as growing up girls and especially those experiences that we knew all girls could relate to, or all women who had been girls could relate to, whether they'd personally experienced them or not. It was actually really interesting. Both times it kind of went off because this was done months ago, but it was picked up again recently, and it was taken notice of by, again, the trans activists on Tumblr who decided to make it about how privileged and, I guess, appropriative they claimed women using the hashtag were, which is interesting because their whole lives are appropriation. So that was just like, okay, we can't actually appropriate our own experiences as women and as women who've been girls. We're not appropriating anything. And furthermore, they consistently tried to make it out like they were being really progressive about it, because apparently you can't make any claims about female experience. And a little side note about this whole thing. I don't understand this modern kind of branch of feminism where they keep claiming that there are no universal female experiences. If there are no universal experiences of oppression and subordination of women, then feminism is not necessary. So if you actually believe that there are no universal female experiences, you're not actually a feminist. So you should stop using the term to describe yourself and stop bothering feminists who actually have an analysis, because it's really just boring 101 shit. Again, you have to be able to understand that there are universal experiences that all women go through, regardless of where they grew up in the world, what culture they came from, how fucking oppressed they were, or how privileged they were. They all experienced very similar things because they were born female. And this, again, I think speaks to why it is such a problem for a lot of men to have women having these kind of conversations. Not only if we have these conversations, we'll start to realize, oh yeah, they didn't have a girlhood. These men who are claiming to be women did not have a girlhood, and thus aren't actually women because they don't actually experience and haven't experienced the kind of oppression we have. So for them to claim it is actually offensive. But secondly, it's about control of women as well, because what that hashtag enabled women to do in a very interesting modern way, and I realized this over time, was to consciousness raise. And we don't really get that many opportunities to do that. There's, back in the day, in the second wave, when consciousness raising was, developed, women would just get together as women and sit around and talk about their experiences. And oftentimes it would be guided, talk about your experiences with this, talk about your experiences with that. Things that maybe the moderators or whatever, or facilitators of the conversation thought, okay, well, what are some things we know that all women have experiences with? I don't know, marriage, or something I don't know, sexuality, all kinds of things were discussed. So while they're doing those, they come to realize that women are a class. When we sit together and share our experiences, we start to realize that women, regardless of how different we are from one another, how different in privilege and in background, all share very similar experiences. And it's never talked about. You don't talk about these things in polite company. You don't talk about, it's so rare for women to even talk about the fact that they get sexually harassed when they're walking on the street with one another. And it happens every day. Like, most women experience it on the regular. So why aren't we talking about these things with one another? There's no context for us to do it in. So I feel that the kind of backlash that was pushed against the shared girlhead tag on Twitter was really about males not wanting women to recognize that we have a class, or that we are a class and we have a shared common experience, because once we recognize that, we begin to be able to name things properly, like who is doing these things to us, who benefits from it. And again, with this specific trans issue, where again it becomes a derail from actual feminism, we again begin to see that they are the boys who did these horrible things to us in childhood. They are still benefiting from our oppression as women. And again, another thing, it was a very healing kind of experience. I mean, I know I shared some things on the tag that were pretty interesting. Like, for example, my father and I had a phone conversation the other day, and I was such a creative child. Like, I spent so many hours every day just drawing. It was my passion. I would draw the same thing over and over again until I got it perfect. Like, I was meticulously impassioned about it, and I just loved, like, colors, right? And I just loved recreating the world in my own image in a way, like on paper. It was like a passionate thing for me, and that was really stamped out of me by my father. And I'm not blaming him specifically, because there's like all kinds of context, but like, we were having a conversation on the phone, and he starts talking to me about my cousin, who is a man, and how he like pissed away all his artistic talent, and how he like really could have done something with it and all that shit. And I was just like, man, you were so fucking unencouraging about my art. Oh man, I might cry. It's really actually one of the most, from my childhood, that's probably one of the most hurtful things I think that I went through, was like just being discouraged from everything that you ever wanted, like just never being able to, and just seeing all the boys and men around you like totally be encouraged, even though they were fucking half as talented, and it's like still happening in your life, you know, you see it. Men get to be fucking nothing, and women have to work twice as hard just to get half of what men have, if even that. And then we have to fucking like live in their world. It's just, anyway, sorry off a derail. That's really like, anyway, he starts talking about like that, and I'm just like, you fucker, you like totally discouraged me, and clearly that hit a nerve. Sorry. So like, yeah, this stuff is traumatic stuff that we're talking about. You know, it's not only that, there was like also experiences of like girls start talking about like their father's friends hitting on them or doing fucked up things to them. Like, it's so true. It was so like, you were always at risk from your father or your friends' fathers, or your father would say stupid shit. Like, my dad would call me and my like best friend lesbian friends, and then like, I guess that happened to other women I'm friends with and like communicate a lot through Twitter. Like, what are the odds of that? Like, that both of our fathers were like really discouraging our natural love of other girls, like very early on. Like, how is that an appropriate thing to say to an 11-year-old? And he did it through like several like friendships that I had. And I, you know, like, wow, you know, we're too close. We might be lesbians. And then of course, like later coming out, you're like, they're like, oh, well, we always will accept you. It's like, no, you fucking don't. You really don't. You don't accept it. It's aberrant. And you fucking put that shit in my head as a child. Anyway, so like communicating on this tag, like, and learning that other girls went through these same experiences was really important, at least for me and for others I know, because it was like a healing thing. And again, because it wasn't prioritizing males and like male feelings, it was shat on, and like it was considered fucked up and oppressive, because anytime women ever focus on ourselves and getting our shit together and healing from what this world has done to us, like it's considered to be an attack against males. Because really, let's face it, it's our job as women to be their fucking caretakers, right? It's our job to take care of everyone else's feelings and never put any time in for ourselves. Well, fuck that. Anyway, the tag has kind of died down in the past day, but if you're on Twitter, you should probably get on there and share some experiences on it, because it's actually, and like read it, like, and read like the genuine tweets on there, not the men and their handmaidens like going on and on about how it's oppressive, because it isn't. How myopic do you have to be to like think that not every girl had a childhood? Like every girl had a girlhood. Like every girl in this world has been raised to be in a subordinate position to the men around her, regardless of what her status is in the world. Even if she was born into a rich white family and drank Starbucks, she still learned that she was nothing more than a whore at the end of the day, okay? That's what we all learn. Yeah.